Okay, it's 7:01 and it's July 18th, and this is the Duxbury Board of Health. And there we go. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted by remote means in accordance with applicable law. Let's see, it looks like telephone number is 1-929-436-2866. Okay. And our first order or our first item on the agenda is 827 Franklin Street.
Hello, Joe Webby Engineering.
Okay.
Okay, yes, I am here for 827 Franklin Street, where they would like to build a garage onto their house, in which case they would have to move their well. And they would move their well to the front yard. We submitted plans, and we would need to you would need to ask for 2 waivers to allow the new well to go in. And one of them is to be 15 feet from the traveled way instead of 25 feet. And the other one is to allow the well to be 125 feet from the existing soil absorption system instead of 150 feet. Currently, right now, the well, their existing well is only about 100 feet away from their septic system.
Joe, can I, if you're done, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, certainly.
I was wondering if do we have any water testing for the existing well, or has there been any, I don't know if you've tested for the proposed location?
Yeah, obviously before the new well can get into service, it would have to be tested and submitted. I don't know about the existing well. I don't know when the last time they would have had it tested.
Okay. And do we have any, could you speak a little bit about the grades here and slope and what's any kind of elevation?
Yeah, it's a very flat lot. The underground aquifer obviously would be going towards the ocean to the east. So the septic system on this property would not be affecting that well in any case, in either of the well, the existing well or the proposed well. The land across the street, Franklin Street, is all town of Duxbury conservation land.
And it looks like it's a gravel drive in front of the property. And is there salt application or who knows? Maybe not. Yeah. I would assume not if it's gravel.
Right now I don't know how the town takes care of it if they do.
Okay. I guess that would be my only concern is if there's frequent salting, they're really close to a very permeable surface right there. And I don't how deep would the proposed well be? Do you know?
I have no idea. I don't know if they've actually talked to well drillers.
Okay.
Is there any way that this can be more conforming? And if not, why not?
We could make it a little more non-conforming if we could move the well further away from the house. Then it would just be a little more expensive for them because of to dig a new line to the house, where this is the proximity of where they a closer proximity to the dwelling.
How much of a difference would it be in terms of feet, approximately?
Well, we could move it over closer to the wetlands, but I'm not sure that's a good idea either. But probably over by where that existing shed is would help a little bit.
Melissa, does that address any of the issues that you brought forth if it was moved?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Let me
Oh,
think
no,
about that.
I was gonna ask somebody to repeat the question because I didn't hear it.
So I had asked Melissa if you moved as you just shared with us, would that address any of Melissa's questions that concerns that she just asked you?
Yes, it would get us a little bit further away from the roadway. Yeah, back to the 25 feet. Yes.
But in terms of distance from the SAS, would that be closer or?
It looks to me like it would be a tad closer. Yes, probably about that 10 feet.
Yeah, I mean, choosing between proximity to the septic versus proximity to the gravel driveway, I'd rather see it closer to the gravel drive in some ways
Okay,
than the septic.
fair enough.
I mean, but that's a personal preference, I guess.
Yeah, we agree with you. That's why we kind of
Yeah.
kept it away from the wetlands side.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I don't really have a question, just, I realize there are well testing, there are defined parameters, for a well, but I'd encourage the homeowners to keep track, to routinely test their water, given the location, if they are going to install this well, to keep track of that and make sure they stay on top of water quality testing.
Sound advice. Mike, do you have any comments?
If we issue a permit, are there conditions in that for testing or standard conditions for having a potable well?
Lauren, do you know the answer to that?
They're usually the standard conditions. But I did want to note that the homeowner, Carrie, is on, and I don't know if she wants to add any information or how deep, do you know?
I'm not sure how deep they're gonna go right now. We have a shallow well. We've had it forever. On this property where we're proposing to move it. It is a gravel private road. There is no salting. All the owners take care of the maintenance of the road. And like Mr. Webby was saying, it's all conservation land across the street, so there wouldn't be any like new homes being built, or it wouldn't pose any kind of difficulty for that situation. I'm working with Folsom, which is a well company out of Carver. When my pump broke, they came out and fixed it, and we noted some issues with the existing well, so it does need to be replaced. And then in the hopes of putting a garage on in that location, we would have to relocate the well, so we figured let's just do it all at the same time to make it just smooth. But as far as the road goes, it is a private drive, and it is not salted.
Yeah, I just encourage you to, for municipal wells, for example, we have what's called a zone around the wells, like a zone 1, zone 2, which is to make sure that nothing's happening in that area so that you can't have infiltration of contaminants, especially if you end up having a shallow well.
Okay.
Yeah, so try to make sure that you keep that area around the well, safe from even storing chemicals or applying chemicals. Just take care of that area and get regular water testing.
Okay, not a problem at all.
Are we ready to vote? We are. Make a motion to grant a variance to the town of Duxbury Private Well Regulations, section 2.063C, to allow proposed potable well to be constructed 15 feet from a traveled way instead of 25 feet to reduce the setback to existing soil absorption system to the greatest extent possible.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. I make a motion to grant a variance to the town of Duxbury Private Well Regulations, section 2.063G, to allow the proposed potable well to be constructed 125 feet from a leaching facility versus the required 150 feet.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. So granted.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, second on our agenda is 233 Powder Point Avenue.
Joe Webby, Webby Engineering. This is a septic system upgrade. Currently, the plumbing goes out, leaves the house underneath the foundation, and it's under that deck. And there's no way that a plumber can elevate the foundation, elevate the plumbing up to get, well, we okay, let me start over again a little bit here. Okay, it's a septic system upgrade that we can meet all of your regulations, but there's one regulation at the state level, Title V level, where we have to ask for a reduction to allow a septic system, a leaching system deeper in the ground than 36 inches. And so first thing that we look at is, can we elevate the plumbing? In this case, we cannot elevate the plumbing because we would be coming out in the wooden knee walls. So that doesn't make sense. So what we would like to ask is that we get permission to have this septic system at 53 inches below the existing grade instead of 36 inches, which is a depth of 17 inches. We are able to keep your 6-foot separation between any seasonal high groundwater table and the bottom of our septic system. This is allowed under Title V, up to 6 feet below grade, as long as we vent the system. And this system is being vented. So that's the one waiver that we're asking for.
And sorry,
Yes,
the reason to avoid the pump is because of the current configuration, right? Or
Yeah,
the
the current plumbing, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
I don't have any questions or concerns.
I just have one question. So the location of the existing leaching field is unknown?
Yeah, there's a tank or some type of first cesspool that's over by where we're putting in the new tank. There is something right there. We don't know how much further that if there are any other overflow cesspools or not. This house is for sale, and when the inspection was done, it was a cesspool. So in Duxbury, that's an automatic failure. So they just never proceeded any further to see what was out there.
But I guess in installing the new system, will those cesspools will be located, whatever's on site and filled or?
Yes, yeah, they'll all have to be pumped out and then crushed or abandoned. Yeah, we can't leave open pits anywhere.
Okay.
They'll find them. If they're out there, they'll find them.
And how many cesspools did you think there were?
No, the owner didn't know. I mean, he's been there since I think quite a while. So I can't tell you. We don't know because when we come on board, it's to just draw plans for a new system. They didn't. The Nava company did not do a standard Title V inspection, only because once they found out it was a cesspool, then it's automatic, and there's no sense going any further.
Madam Chair, I have the file here for the property, and it looks like in 2007, there's a plan that has some ties. So when they construct a new system, I can make sure that they have everything that's in the file to get rid of the existing sanitary system that's out there.
And this system, the new system is gonna dramatically increase in size from what was, I mean, it's going from 4 to 7 bedrooms, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Bruce, any questions or thoughts? Bruce has any. Mike and Melissa, are you ready to vote? Bruce, ready to vote?
Yeah, I'm ready. A couple of questions were asked that I had in mind to ask. I mean, the main thing was, it seemed to me that if you're using current plumbing, then the system that's currently there must be somewhere where this one, I mean, as far as the depth is concerned. And then I'm very happy to see the cesspool found, and I've been after us to start finding these cesspools before a sale of a home. So yeah, I'm all in favor of this.
Okay, good. All right, so I make a motion for a variance to Title V local upgrade approval 15.4051B to allow maximum depth of the proposed soil absorption system to be 53 inches instead of 36 inches with a vent to avoid a pump system.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Right, unanimous. It's great. And then I think just as a side note, Lauren, you'll give your plans from 2007 so that we can ensure people understand what's there and where the cesspool is located. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Going on to number 3, which is 2 Valley Street. Do we have anyone presenting?
Freeman's on, but I'm wondering if he's having
He's having
trouble.
audio problems.
Mm. Let's see if he's trying to get in.
So there's nobody presenting?
I think Freeman's having audio problems. He's trying to, I think, address those.
Yeah, it looks like he just logged off. He's probably going to try to log back in.
So is the first thing, reboot.
Yep. All right.
He
just-
may have been going to the old ID, the original ID. Which is what I did.
Here he is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I guess I have to use my phone. The computer just decided it wasn't gonna continue operating. And I think Lauren was sharing the screen. I can't see much on it with my phone. So Freeman Boynton representing the Curls this evening at 2 Valley Street who are in the process of selling their home. They had, I believe it was Wind River, come out and make an inspection on the current system, which consists of 1,000-gallon. The house is a split level, so half of the first floor is below grade, and the plumbing comes out quite similar to the last. And I have to install a tank roughly 3 feet below grade, probably 2.5 or so. But in order to avoid a pump, we have to, we would like 2 variances to reduce groundwater separation, one under Duxbury supplemental regs from 6 to 5, and another one under local upgrade approval to reduce the groundwater separation from 5 to 4. We feel that having to install a pump system on this to meet the groundwater separation would create a mound as well as an inconvenience for the owners. I'm not sure where I am on the phone. I'm still there. I see Bruce.
We can still hear you, Freeman.
Okay, sorry. I think I'm done.
How much of this, it says that part of it is zone 2?
Yes, I think it's just a corner of the lot. I think it's shown on the plan.
And it has 1.4 acres.
Yes.
It'd be nice to see some new technology going. What kind of, I've been studying this, what kind of system are you putting in here?
We're putting in a standard 1,500-gallon tank and Arc 36 gravelless chambers.
Uh-huh. 5 of them.
It's actually it's 30 chambers and 5 couplings.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to get a new computer. I can't even read the picture you guys are looking at. I'm looking at it on my computer. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't read like the contours on this, but I guess when you refer to mounding the system, are we talking like a 1 foot, 1 or 2 foot mound transitioning back into existing grades, or would there need to be a wall?
Well, the grade up by the house is elevation 95, and out where the reserve area is shown, the grade's 91. It does drop down 4 feet. The top of the leaching's at 9201, so it would be poking out of the ground a foot or so. If we didn't get the variances, then it would stick out of the ground 3 feet. If we had to put in a pump system and pump it up into a mound, it would be 3 feet out of the ground, which would be pretty awkward for this property.
And the offsets to the pool, I can't really read any of the dimensions, but are those could just
I
be
think we're
my-
about 40 feet away from the swimming pool.
Okay.
Melissa, any thoughts from you?
Try that again. Nothing at the moment.
We ready for a decision? Bruce, are you all set?
Yeah,
All right. Make a motion for a variance to the town Duxbury supplemental rules and regulations 1.111B, depth to groundwater to allow the proposed soil absorption system to be constructed 5 feet above maximum groundwater, where Duxbury supplemental rules require 6 feet.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye.
aye,
Hi.
Right. So moved, unanimous. Second variance, I make a motion for variance to Title V local upgrade approval 15.4051H2 to allow the proposed soil absorption system to be constructed 4.13 feet above groundwater.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Raymond.
All right. Number 4 is 25 through 28 Trout Farm Lane. It looks like we have two conflicting Title V reports, a fail and a conditional pass.
That would be my project. Yeah, you guys, I would imagine you recall seeing the septic system a month or so ago. I tried to log in on that with the same stupid computer and didn't get anywhere. I really didn't. I mean, they called me up and they asked me to give them a price on installing that septic system. Most of the design wasn't that bad, but I would have made a couple of changes just to make the system serviceable. Putting a septic tank 10 feet below grade and a pump chamber 10 feet below grade seemed kind of silly to me. But when I met the owners out there, I asked them what was wrong with the current system. and they said that the pits were full. And then I asked to see the Title V inspection and stopped back a few days later and realized that only 2 of the pits are full and one of them's completely empty. I've been doing Title V inspections since 1995, which I think is about 29 years, and probably seen a few dozen of these situations where one pit's full and the other one's empty. And it seems to me when you have that kind of a situation, the system's only used up half of its useful life. In this case, we have two full pits and 1 empty pit, so it's used up more or less 2/3 of its useful life. Duxbury did adopt supplemental regs applying to leaching pit systems that require that there be a half-day available volume remaining in the leaching pits. In this particular case, there's 4 units, 2 bedrooms per unit, which would be 880 gallons per day, and a half-day flow would be 440, which if you make the calculations on the diameter of the leaching pit that's empty, based upon the 440 gallons capacity that we would have to show, there would have to be 2.1 feet of available depth left in the pit below the invert into it. And there's an empty pit there, which is about 6.5 feet tall or something of that nature. So I didn't see any reason why the system should fail. I did do some research and found some information related to that on the DEP website that talks about the distribution box and how you're supposed to expose and remove the cover, determine if the D box is level and if the flow is equal, check if there's evidence of solids carryover, check if the static water level is at or higher than invert of the outlet pipe. In this case, due to a lack of maintenance, there was a lot of sludge in the distribution box. And I would say that the liquid level was a little high in relation to the 2 of the pits that were in a state of failure. But then in the DEP procedures indicate that the inspector must determine the cause of an elevated liquid level in the distribution box. And then it says that the system may qualify for a conditional pass if the high liquid level is due to broken or unobstructed or obstructed pipes, or a broken distribution box, or if the distribution box is uneven or settled. So it's my opinion that the system is a conditional pass subject to correcting that situation, reestablishing the flow of effluent into the 3rd leaching pit. We would pump out the 2 full pits and install speed levelers in the distribution box and try and get the flow equally between the 3 pits. I did reach out to DEP and talk to them, and they stated quite clearly to me that in their opinion, the system would be a conditional pass and not a failure as long as the leaching pit's not in the groundwater. And I did make some calculations based upon George's redesigned or new plan, and converting the original elevations from the original plan to George's plans, which are NGVD as opposed to an assumed benchmark. We have about 11.5 feet of groundwater separation between the bottom of that leaching pit and seasonal high groundwater. So I'm hoping you'll see it this way and we can move on and go fix the septic system. And I think there's a family that's hoping to sell their condo in a couple of weeks. And that's it.
This system was, the original date is 1977.
I think so.
47 years old.
That's the date on the plans, yes.
So because it's a condo, the leaching pits don't automatically fail.
I've never heard of that. I don't know why that would be the case. It's something you've heard of, Mike, or?
I guess
And
it's a
you-
leaching pit and not a cesspool. So is it
Yes,
cesspool?
there's a tank and there's 3 leaching pits. 2 of them are in a state of failure and one of them's hasn't been used in a while, it seems to me. But it's my opinion that when Title V was written, the requirement is that the septic system meet the requirements from Article 11, the 1969 code, in order to pass a Title V inspection. That there be at least some groundwater separation, that the system's functional, it's not too close to wells, and this was designed under that code. The original Title V came into play in 1978, and this being a 77 plan would have been under Article 11. And as I say, Article 11 only required 2 feet of separation. A Title V inspection just requires some, and we've got 11.5 feet. So I think we're still doing a pretty good job providing some protection of the groundwater. Certainly, if it was a new 95 code compliant system, it would provide better protection, but maybe if Bruce gets his way someday, you guys will require that, but that's not currently the situation.
Is there any reason to believe that if the blockage in the D-box is fixed, that you could have issues in this third, current, like that you wouldn't, is there any chance you would arrive at the same state, after a short period of time that the other 2 tanks are in, is for this third empty tank?
That certainly is possible, and that was something that the DEP suggested you folks might want to do and require a follow-up, a month or 2 or whatever down the road. That's certainly an option. One way or another, I'm going to get the liquid flowing to that third pit. If I have to dig a deep hole and install a new pipe, I'll do that, but I'm hoping I can jet that pipe out and get it going again. A lot of the issue with a system is that it's so deep in the ground, and unfortunately, the last Title V inspector did not even locate the outlet cover of the tank, and he did not properly clean the tank. If you're just working from the inlet cover, you can't properly pump the whole tank. I think as part of regular maintenance of this system, both covers need to be open. The tank needs to be pumped completely dry, backwashed if necessary to get all the sludge out of it, so that it doesn't end up in the distribution box. We're gonna pump the distribution box out, and the distribution box is actually a fairly large leaching pit with 3 pipes going out of it. So we're gonna do a fair amount of work on it just to get it going, but probably about 1% of what it would cost to put that new system in.
And sorry, just to follow, 2 questions. Is there agreement from the involved parties of direction they want to go in? Are they all on board with this, or who,
Or would
who's,
they rather put a $75,000 septic system in?
I mean, obviously this is, a more cost-effective solution for them. But does anybody feel strongly in the other direction?
No, I don't think so. But being a condo complex, it really isn't up to the particular owners. The systems are owned and maintained by the association. And I've met with most of the board members and discussed the issues, and the 3 women I met with the first time I was out there all wanted to kiss me because they liked my solutions to the problem. So I think that's a vote in my favor.
All right, and last question. In terms, we have 2 conflicting decisions from DEP, essentially, or opinions. Why you spoke with Martha Sullivan, or I'm just curious why, whether one came before the other and supersedes, the previous opinion, or how that played out.
Well, I didn't talk to Brett Rowe. I think Tracy did, and I'm not sure what kind of a picture she painted, but when I called, I left a message for Brett, and he did not call me back. But instead, he had somebody else in his office call me back, and it was a couple of days before she did call me back, and sounded to me as though she had done a bunch of research and understood the situation and understood what was going on with the system. And when she called me back, she said it's not a failure. So, but I don't know exactly what transpired between Tracy and Brett Rowe, who I've dealt with in the past. But when I first realized there was an issue here, I said to the members of the board, as well as later calling the Title V inspector and explaining to him that it's not a failure, and I asked him to reconsider his outcome on the Title V inspection report, just because I didn't want to create headaches for Tracy. But he was unwilling to do that. He felt as though, actually, the first time I talked to him, he said, Tracy told me to fail it. I said, I don't think she did that, but I think it was just kind of a gray area, and not very good pictures were painted of this system. But when I opened that cast iron cover in the parking lot and I saw a brand new leaching pit there with clean stone at the bottom that hasn't been used in I'm not sure how long, if ever. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of leaching left there.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions. On a condo association, this association must be 47 years old. So every time one condo is sold, is there an inspection done? The shared system.
I'm a little confused on that question myself, Bruce. We take care of Duxbury Woods, Deacon's Path, and those 25 or 28 systems up there. Condo associations are supposed to inspect them every 3 years, regardless of whether one is selling or not. So they always have valid Title V inspections on hand.
So can you assume that over the years that this system?
I really don't know. I have no idea. I do know that I have done a half a dozen Title V inspections in Trout Farm. Some of them more than once, and it was to accommodate a closing. So it seems to me as though they don't keep up with the protocol of inspecting all the systems and maintaining Title V inspections on all the systems.
Well, okay, that's my first question. So I would like to see if we're going to approve this, that we have a stipulation that anytime one owner changes ownership of the condo association, that there's an inspection. And then the other thing is, I noticed on one report said there are no garbage disposals, and another report said there was.
I don't recall what mine said.
I think yours says there isn't. Or maybe yours said there, I've got it right in front of me, but I don't have it opened. But one of them said, on the time frame, goes from March to May to June, early June to June 24th. And there's your inspection and there's the other one. The only thing I can say is one of them said there are no garbage disposals. The other one said there is.
Well, given the situation, we were trying to be pretty thorough with our investigation of all the systems. My Title V inspection says no.
Okay, the other one says that yes.
Okay. But we typically, it's the only thing we inspect in the home is the plumbing exiting the building and to ensure that the laundry is tied in. But we take the homeowner's word for it as to whether or not there's a garbage disposal. We typically don't demand that we go and see their kitchen and look in the sink to see if there is a garbage disposal. There are some other.
Is that the first one they did?
I have
guess
no.
You don't know.
I don't know if there have been any others. I just have these two. But there are other conflicting information on that report also.
Yeah.
Their report indicates that there's 9 bedrooms, but there's only 8. The condo docs only allow 8. The guy didn't dig up the outlet of the tank, and it was only 6 inches below grade. I don't know, there were a lot of things I didn't like about it, but he said there's scum over both tees, but he didn't even open up the outlet end of the tank.
So, are you saying that even if we required an inspection of the system, anytime there's an ownership change, that they may not really do an inspection, they may not open it, or what constitutes a valid inspection?
You gotta go out there and do a Title V inspection. I could spend the next 20 minutes telling you what that involves, but
yeah,
there's a lot to it. I mean, they can't. I'm really not sure whether some of the buildings on this are on their own lots and therefore they only have to do it every time they change hands. But I think if you look at the Duxbury GIS maps, it's all one lot. It's a condo complex, and there should be valid Title V inspections at the Board of Health that are less than 3 years old at all times. But I don't know what the situation is there. I can't help you with that. But also when I met with the board out there the first day I was there, they indicated that it was not one of these units that was being sold. I've since heard from another real estate agent that says, in fact, one of these units is selling in August. But when I first met with them, it was unit 15 or 16 or something of that nature, which would indicate to me that they're trying to conform and do Title V inspections on all the units, which is what Duxbury Woods does, and they're pretty good about it.
Do you think we have the right to suggest this in our conditions?
I can answer that, Bruce. As we were going through this, I did reach out to town council, because as I'm still new in this position, I had never seen conflicting Title V's. So they said ultimately we can, if it's up to the board, if you want to grant the repair, you can condition and have them do another Title V inspection in the near future. And then just to talk a little bit about the condos and how they are required to have inspections every 3 years. When a new inspection report comes in, I guess we never kept the old Title V's because the files just don't have the room for it. So we've changed that policy moving forward to scan them into each address in our permitting software. But the file that I have here, I don't have a previous Title V, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have them done. I think there was one member of the homeowners association is on the meeting and did say that they do always have inspections. So it's another thing that sort of seems a little broken. I asked about who monitors when the condos and if they are for the whole town, if they are conducting these inspections every 3 years, and it was kind of just like, oh, we're not really sure.
So-
It's supposed to be on the condo associations to do that, but it is something that I would like to track moving forward so that we can make sure everyone's in compliance, and if not, we can send a letter, requesting
So
the
if
requirement.
there was an inspection similar to what we've had now, and there was a failure, it would be, I mean, we would be in the same loop that we're in now, or?
Exactly. We wouldn't let that go. We do review all the Title V's when they come in. So if there was a failure 3 years ago, we would be in the same situation. So that, in my opinion, would lead me to believe that it wasn't failing previously.
I think it would be in their best interest to keep an eye on them. If it stopped flowing to the third pit 10 years ago, it would be a lot easier to put some speed levelers on and correct the distribution. We wouldn't. So it's not so much that they would be identifying failures, but identifying issues that ought to be dealt with on a timely basis.
Freeman, you make this repair and we have you come back with another Title V inspection. How long do you think, is it worth repairing, or do you think they need to start from scratch? How long is this, is it going to be gone? It failed in 2 years, 3 years, or what's your professional opinion on that?
Well, let me do the math here for a second. It's 2024 right now. And this system was installed in 1977. So it's 47 years old and it's used 2/3 of its life. So we divide that by 3. So it's got another 15 and a half years on it.
Well,
I don't think that math's quite right, but
longer than 6 months, probably.
It's probably going to last 20 years, I would guess. As far as the repair lasting, as long as the system's properly maintained and it doesn't accumulate sludge in the distribution box, I don't see a problem. But if they do an inspection every 3 years as they're required, that can be monitored and that can be straightened out right away. When we do some of the other condo complexes, we have found failures. We have found systems that were hydraulically dysfunctional and backing up into the house and into the distribution box and into the tank. And we've replaced half a dozen systems or 8 systems at Deacon's Path, some of which were only 2 years old because they were keeping on top of their inspections and they didn't want it backing up into the people's houses and having to make messes and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good idea to do it. I think as far as re-inspecting this, I don't think we necessarily need another Title V inspection, and I certainly wouldn't wait 3 years. I'd like to do this repair, and I'd like to go back in 3 months and see if it's still working, or see if we need to tweak the speed levelers on it just to keep the flow going the way it ought to go. So I volunteer to go back and pop the cast iron lids in the parking lot and look inside and make sure it's working okay. We did raise the cover outlet cover on the septic tank up to grade. It's at grade. So there's all the components have cast iron covers to grade now, and we can open it up and in a minute see what's going on and making sure that this empty pit's receiving its share of the effluent.
And Lauren,
I have to say, I had a lot of doubts about this, but after listening to your presentation and what you think, I'm not going to kiss you, but I think I'm sort of sold on your solution.
It's Title V, and I think, you know, kind of on the same lines of you looking for cesspool systems to try and protect the groundwater. I know that Cape Cod doesn't allow these type of systems anymore. I think you have to be 95 compliant in order to sell a house. And someday you guys will probably decide that this type of system doesn't provide enough groundwater protection. You might want to ban these as well as cesspool systems. But for now, and until you do, we'd like to move on.
so you're asking for a conditional pass, and you're saying that in 2 or 3 months that you're going to go and not necessarily do a full Title V, but you're going to do some type of review of it.
I will make a visual inspection of the distribution box and the 3 leaching pits and report directly to Lauren. I will write her a little note just indicating what we found and what the condition is. And if it's not working right, we'll adjust it so that it is.
And at that point, what would constitute good working order versus concerns?
All 3 of the leaching pits receiving equal flow from the distribution box. I think in the same week that we got involved with this, we had a system in Kingston and a system in Pembroke in the same situation, 1 full pit, 1 empty pit. Of course, in both of those situations, the D box was completely junk and we ended up having to replace the distribution box. But we received Board of Health approval on both of those. There just weren't conflicting failing Title V's that went along with them. And that makes this one a little different, but everybody else understands that this is not a failure of a Title V inspection, and they're a conditional pass, and we pull a permit and we do whatever's necessary, and then we get an inspection. So we'll be dragging Lauren out to take a look at it. She can see what's going on, and we'll explain it to her as part of the receiving the certificate of compliance for this particular project that the owners will close with.
Mike, do you have any concerns with that?
Nope, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, I think I vote for a conditional pass and to have the inspection as Freeman laid out with Lauren involved, and we'll see what the report is in 2 months. Everyone in favor of that? Favor.
Yes, I am.
All right, everyone's in favor. Thank you,
Thank
Freeman.
you very much. Don't
Thank
stay
you.
too late tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to number 5, we have continued discussion with the Duxbury Safe Water Committee regarding concerns to the town's public water supply, and we have Mrs. Chin with us tonight.
Thank you. I have 2 things. First of all, my hat as a co-chair of the Duxbury Nuclear Advisory Committee. I would like to call to your attention that the Mass DEP has denied Holtec's application to dump 1.1 million gallons of Pilgrim wastewater into Cape Cod Bay, and it's the final determination. However, they've been trying to now evaporate it and send it up into the air. So we have another battle on our hands, but they're not going to dump it into the bay. And for Duxbury Safe Water, I mentioned before that we received a DEP grant for about $22,000, and we have a proposal from HRP Associates to complete a forensic evaluation relating to the detection of the PFAS in various municipal drinking water wells in Duxbury, which will focus on the meal dump as well as the Duxbury transfer station, and the potential sources to detect what is going into the municipal drinking water supply from those two sources. They will work in concert with Weston and Sampson, who are continuing to do sampling and investigating, as well as I think it's now Wright Pierce, which is another company that is preparing the preliminary design report for the Partridge well for the treatment of it. And those reports are going to have to be in place for the town to put a cost into by November into the warrant for design and construction of the first recommended project in the Springtown meeting to start our decontamination of PFAS in municipal water wells. So we are moving. Sometimes it's slower than we'd like and not as fast as water moves, but there's some progress, and I'm pleased to report that progress to you.
Well, first of all, the whole tech, that is wonderful. That is
News. Yes.
tremendous. Congratulations. Thank you for all your efforts and everyone else's efforts in that too. That's just, of course, now evaporating in the air, that's the next fight for sure, but that's great.
Contaminated
That's
amazing.
of the pool that they use, because they're bringing contaminated parts of the reactor into the pool, breaking them up into pieces and putting them in a encapsulated container to ship them. And they've already highly contaminated a worker. And it set off alarms. It wasn't just the badge that showed a reaction. They set off alarms within the working deck. And then they're trying to downplay that at the moment, but that was in the last 3 or 4 weeks that happened with a worker.
I'm sorry to hear that for the worker. That's
Dropping
lousy.
heating elements into the pool in the winter rather than heat the building. And they're making the water in the pool come up to temperature enough to create steam. And so they're actually evaporating the water in the pool and dropping the levels. And whatever's in that water of chemicals as well as radiation is going up supposedly through a filter that may or may not be monitored. And they only report what happens to that filter once a year. And they're running those heaters from November until March, April. They don't want to heat the building.
So is
Becky,
the town of Plymouth doing anything about that?
Well, yeah, we are. And that's another battle with DEP and the EPA actually is weighing in. But the trouble is that none of the regulations that were written years ago anticipated radiation. They could, they were all for chemicals, and there are chemicals in that water. And so we're able to draw on some of the local regulations, state regulations, as well as federal ones, and hoping that we can stop that process. But they've done it now 2 years in a row, and they've dropped the level of water.
Well, thank you, and we're look forward to understand what the
We're not done.
remediation is for that.
Thank you.
And then do you have or Melissa, what does forensic review mean? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, Becky, do you have an idea of what they're planning to do? Are they taking the water, like the PFAS in the water, and trying to figure out what the different constituents mean?
Put together records. Evidently, this gentleman is the head of HRP Associates, is a well-known individual engineer in this field, and they're it's trying to look at past test records as well as current ones, and what they're going to actually do, I will find out at the next Duxbury Safe Water meeting, because it's the proposal that was sent. I can send you the proposal, Melissa. I'd be happy to send it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
I'll do that. not my area of expertise.
I wasn't testing you. I just heard forensic and I wanted to know what that means. So thank you, Melissa. I guess you'll let us know.
Yeah, no, I was hoping, I'm really thankful to Duxbury Safe Water that you guys are using that grant to do this, because it's a necessary step, I think, for us to help settle where is this coming from and see if we can get that information. Yeah.
Great. That's good. That sounds great. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for the update and the good news. All right. Our last item are Lauren health agent updates.
Sure. So, first are the stats from June 21st through July 17th from Kathy Carney. COVID-19, there's 12 cases, 1 under 5, 0 from ages 5 to 18, and 11 cases for 18 and older. For Lyme, there's 4 probable and 8 suspect. We have 1 influenza A, 1 Haemophilus influenza, 1 hepatitis B, 1 hepatitis C, 5 anaplasmosis, and 1 pertussis. And then also I updated on the board's website news alerts that they did have a positive mosquito sample for Triple E in Carver, and then a positive mosquito sample for West Nile virus in Rainham. And then I'm sure you saw the news. Today, the state confirmed its first measles case since 2020. In the cases in Worcester County, and it's linked to international travel. And then some other, oh, sorry.
I did see that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And then some other updates. Today, I sent out our second round of violation enforcement letters with respect to tobacco sales to underage from the compliance checks that we're conducting every 6 months. I mailed out $6,000 in fines. And we only have 7 tobacco retailers in town. So within the next 6 months, they'll conduct another compliance check. And if there's third violations for some of these vendors, the fine is $5,000. So I know I mentioned I'd like to wait till Tracy comes back before we start to talk about maybe implementing or amending our Duxbury rules and regulations to maybe have some loss of licensure for a period of time attached to these fines as well, because it doesn't seem like the money is really hitting home for some of them. Out of the 7, there are 2 that have not had any violations. So that's Reds at Cox Corner and also Noria. So they should be, it's good that they're training their staff to check every ID. One of the letters I sent out was for offering flavored tobacco, which we know is not allowed in the state at all. So we're working on that. We're working on sending out our files to have those become digital records. That'll happen in August. And then I think we are getting a summer intern or end of summer intern. We had some interest. So we'll be posting that intern position. We have to post it legally and then go from there to see. I have some ideas, and I would welcome any ideas that you may have on how to use the intern, maybe some research projects. I definitely would like to get going on the cesspools and then also figuring out a way to monitor the condos and making sure that they're actually having those Title V inspections every 3 years like they're supposed to.
I think the cesspool is a good idea. That was great that you had that last time. And I think that would keep somebody occupied in something that's necessary that we need. And, maybe they could get in touch with your peers to see what they do for, when we decide to do something more with the tobacco, just to know what other
Right.
surrounding towns.
Yeah. So when we do go down that road, Plymouth has sent us theirs. They've already implemented it.
good.
Kingston's board just did the same. I think they followed the same loss of licensure that Plymouth has. So I'll
Right.
have all of that stuff when I really would like to wait for Tracy, just,
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
we can
so
wait. Yeah, that's
so
fine. You have it all compiled, so
yeah.
that's good.
So that's all I have.
Well, you've been quite busy, so thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Oh, you're welcome.
I-
Thank you.
I just had one question. Are you gonna use, I thought that Dropbox that you did was pretty slick.
Okay,
Are you gonna keep doing that or?
sure. Absolutely. I do that for the zoning board too. And it's just, I can't email everything. The files are just too big. So Dropbox just makes it so much easier. I can absolutely, even if we go back to in-person or hybrid, I'll still, it's easy enough for me to do. So I can do that. No problem.
Good. Well, thanks a lot.
No, you're welcome.
Back in the old days, it was mailed and postage, and someone, you had to pay someone, besides the postage, you had to pay someone to make the copy. So this is saving money and coming into the future. So it's a good idea. So thank you.
I will just try to darken some of the plans so we can actually see the contours. That's the only problem with it, with scanning it in. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty handy.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting will be August 15th.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, all right, meeting adjourned. Thanks everyone for your time and attention, and have a good rest of the week.